What's up, American Outlaw Nation? How is everybody today? Thanks for listening to the podcast. Podcast today is brought to you by Aeolus Defense. Spell it right, AEOLUS Defense.com. Check them out for all your tactical need, gear, and training. All right, I'm back today again with the man, the myth, the legend, Nate. Nate, how are you tonight, brother?
Life's good.
Life is good.
I'm alive and vertical.
Alive, vertical, and he still has the best beard of all men.
Thank you.
I mean, that's a fact. I mean, everywhere we go, somebody is either eyeballing his beard or complimenting it. Every man wishes he had it. Every girl wishes they could pull on it.
So I've got one rule. A lot of times women will come up to me and be like, oh, can I touch your beard? Because they just come up like the audacity of these women. It's like the entitlement, right? Like this is my beard, right? I can't just run up and touch your butt. And so I've gotten good at fending them off. And I stop them and I just say, hey, I have one rule and one rule only. Oh, what's the rule? You touch my beard, I touch your butt.
I think that's fair.
99% of the butts are touched.
Oh, I thought you were going to say aren't touched, but hey, they look at it as a fair deal, right?
Yeah. It's a
everybody likes to wheel and deal. It's the art of the deal, and you figured it out.
The attention is not free, ladies.
The attention is not free. Today, what I want to talk about with my pal Nate is single mothers. Gosh. So look at Nate. He's turning red on me. So I have a lot of, I don't personally have girlfriends, right? Mm-hmm. My wife and I have this barrier that she doesn't have guy friends and I don't have girlfriends. I don't share my deepest, darkest thoughts, successes, whatever, with other women. You don't have a wife, but if you had one, I wouldn't call your wife, right? Or if I called your wife, it's because I said, hey, Nate, where's this? And you said, call my wife and she'll let you in the house, right? But I'm not having some deep conversation with her. And no man is having that with my wife either. It is detrimental to relationships, I promise. It doesn't matter what age you are, it's detrimental, okay? I have also 3 daughters, so I have to watch this. As a father, I'm protecting my kids, and I have to watch this. And I have seen a lot of friends that are family members, or that I went to school with, or my wife's friends with her, and that have found themselves single mothers. Mm-hmm. This is such a touchy subject. As a single mother and as a single man trying to decide who he wants to be with in life. Mm-hmm. And we have a culture where it's 50 years ago, divorce was nearly unheard of. And today divorce is kind of, I wouldn't say expected, but almost expected.
Yeah. You call your buddy up you were in the service with, or you went to college with, and you all the time have to ask, hey, are you and so-and-so still together? Because you were at their wedding 15 years ago. You can't just assume it any longer.
Yeah, no, it's just something you can't assume, and it's sad. It is sad, and I think a lot of that is driven by culture, media, and a generation of no consequences. So let's talk about single mothers from the male's point of view. You as a 40-something, good-looking, well-spoken, well-taken care of, polite friend, man's man, out searching for women, more than likely, vastly more often than not, you're going to run into a single mother, right? I know there are exceptions, that there's a girl that's 40 that has never been married, and that's something different. But I'm going to say the vast majority are either you're dipping into a very young pool or you're dipping into a single mother pool. talk to us about single mothers.
Okay, so because I have in the past dated a few. Let me say this before we get started. Obviously, if you haven't watched the first episode, which maybe you should lay some groundwork, but let me preface this conversation that we're all having with a concept, and I don't remember where I picked this up, but nice versus kind, right? We've all heard the term nice guys finish last. But the word nice is, I think, been conflated or made synonymous with kind, and it's not. The word nice comes from, I believe, don't quote me, Latin. It could be Greek. I could be wrong. Somebody's going to check me on it. I believe you pronounce it nesius, meaning ignorant. And when you swap out nice for ignorant, you say ignorant guys finish last, it begins to make sense.
So personally, I've never heard that. And what a great concept. If you're ignorant to something, it doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means you're not educated on that subject.
Right. And versus kind, right? Because a lot of times guys hear nice guys finish last, and so they assume if I don't want to finish last, I have to have weapons grade dickhead asshole mentality. And that can't be that's the farthest thing from the truth, right? But when you understand you can't be ignorant, you can't go into life ignorant and expect good results, then I think that's kind of where we're going, right?
So would you say that a naive guy is really just an ignorant guy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He's so nice. Versus kindness. Kindness is like saying, hey, this is going to suck, but we got to have this conversation. And there's no hate, there's no malevolence behind it. And as men, having strong relationships with other men, sometimes we got to tell these young guys things that are hard to hear. Sometimes we need older men to tell us things that are hard to hear. Because I'm always learning and evolving. At least that's what I try to do. So, that being said, we're trying to be kind. I have single mothers and stepfathers throughout my family. So I've seen this. I've discussed it with family members in life. And life happens. None of us get out alive, and none of us do it perfect. But the less ignorant we can go through it, and the sooner we drop off on the ignorance, I think the better results that we get for ourselves as individuals, for our families, for our communities, and ultimately our country. So, dated a few single moms, and they're wonderful people. They're not without their faults, but if they weren't, they wouldn't have dated me, because I'm not perfect either. And so in my younger days, I decided, you know what, especially with the hashtag Me Too movement, I was like, I'm not dating a single mother with a minor daughter. Just not doing it. There's too many hashtag Me Too's. I'm not putting myself in that position. Sorry, you got to go find somebody else.
And I would still, it's sad for the mother and it's sad for the daughter. But I definitely understand that, because you literally never know what is going to be said today. And I would not be willing to go down that road. And I'll tell you, I'm not willing to go down that road in just, hey, look, married guy, 3 daughters. They have daughters spend the night. Mm-hmm. At no time ever am I
in the house alone.
In the house
your
alone,
wife.
Period. They're there all the time.
Yep.
100%.
And that's a smart move. And there are people that probably be in the comments like, oh, you're just afraid, you're scared, you know, man up, blah, blah, blah. There is a book that I'm working on. It's a business book called The Road Less Stupid. And I forget the author's name. But he talks about how in business and in life, it's not always about making the MVP play or the 3-point shot or the game-winning whatever in business. It's about avoiding the stupid mistakes. Just like in your budget, right? It's not the expensive things that run us into debt. It's the nickel and dime that we don't see because we don't manage our money. And so it's with kind of that approach, like, hey, that's a mistake I can avoid, right? I don't have to deal. Now, if she's got then I graduated to, well, she's got a daughter and her daughter's 18. Okay. She can ruin the relationship. She can't bring me into court because she ain't, my DNA is not going to ever be around that. So I thought, well, single mom with a boy. Okay. I could probably do that, but you're still dealing with the birth father, the biological father. Not always, but, quite often there's the biological father with visitation rights. There's the whole logistical situation. There's the constant berating of him by your now current girlfriend or wife. And, just poisoning the well. Right? He could have been a super asshole. He could have cheated on her, but no relationship ends completely because of one side. But she will never tell you that side.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that you in the initial portion of it get to listen to the whole download of her ex. And then that probably never goes away. Mm-hmm. The ex is texting about the kids. So it's something that you are the other man now.
Yep.
Yeah. And so tell me about what is it like being a part of another child's life?
So what I have the most experience with, so finally I evolved to, okay, single mom, but the biological father is deceased. Okay, maybe I can do that. And I'm sure, I think if you were going to do it, the best way to do it is when the child is almost an infant and just never knows anything other than you as the man in his life that loves and cares for him. Or if you, as a man, have your own children and right? Because they'll always, as a single guy that doesn't have kids, women typically do not understand or admit to the concessions that you make on a daily basis in their life. The biting of the tongue, the looking the other way, all these things. And I think if you bring a kid, she's got to do that for your kid so she can at least understand, okay, he's probably doing that for my kid.
I do have this question. This is what has always rang tough with me with kids, and we're going to get into this on the other side in a little bit, but I want you to touch on this. So you're dating a single mother who has a child, let's say 8 to 18 range.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let's say you move in with her. Let's say you marry her, and now she probably has primary custody. So you're raising the kid, you're feeding the kid, you're taking the kid to school, you're buying the kid stuff. Mom's probably getting $500 a month on child support. Maybe it's $1,000, whatever. And you can do all of that for that kid and for her. But when it comes time to discipline them, that's my kid. You don't get to do that. And when it comes time to discipline that kid says, you are not my dad.
Yeah, and you get all the theatrics that go with that statement. So, number one, and bring me back to this point, never move in with a woman. If you're going to coexist, she moves in with you. You do not move in with her. What was the other one? Oh, yeah. And it's not just when you have all the responsibility of doing all the things. And it's not even chastising or correcting. It's just setting boundaries. For example, a young man, he's eventually going to get a testosterone dump, and he wants to buck up, and he'll want to buck up to his mom. And I don't know about you, but I remember the first time a fist, lightly, it wasn't a tight fist, but it was a light fist, came out of thin air into the side of my face when I got to a certain age and a certain size, and I decided to talk to my mom in a way that was not appropriate. Right?
I got a leather belt.
And at that young age, you learn that even though that's your own mother, that's some man's wife. And a young boy who doesn't have a father doesn't learn that lesson. And he goes out into the world into his 20s and 30s and puts himself in situations not having understood that.
Boy, that's pretty powerful, Nate, because I can see that with my own children. They're all girls, but I have had to put them in check over them running over my wife. Lots of times. Not a bunch, lots of times, a couple of times a year, each one of them and their teenagers kind of start getting a little mouthy. And yes, I'm your father, but your mother is my wife, and you will respect her.
And there's a pecking order, and she's above it more than you.
Yeah, she's the head pecker.
Yes. And so you run into that situation. Now, the best you can do is speak up or verbally communicate that to him. I can't punch him the way my dad did. I can't even smack him upside the back of the head. Like, child services are there over what?
Yeah.
And so, and that's just one example of the many concessions that you find yourself as a man having to make. Now, also, never underestimate the power of deniability when it comes to a mother and her only son. Ask me how I know that.
Hey, Nate, how do you know that?
I am my mother's only son. And it's the same as, cute little girls that got daddy wrapped around their finger. It's just a force that you cannot compete with. And so, yeah, you're going to step in and do all these things. And, I never tried to be stepdad of the year, ever. That's ignorant. But, I'm a pretty decent dude. Like, I would run an errand for you if you were like, hey, I'm running late from work. Can you bring whatever? Fine. And that was the spirit in which many things had been done. And for this particular case, I promise you I had been to more band recitals, picked up from school, dropped off from school, brought to part-time job. He comes home before mom's home from work, got his heart broken by his first girlfriend, had to deal with bullies, and would ask me these questions. And I would give him good responses. But when push comes to shove, they'll mom and pop you just the same, except you're at a deficit because you're not the real pops. And you will talk about dating apps from the last episode. My kids come first. Well, then you do your kids. Because no man wants to come home and play second fiddle. Just like your wife doesn't want to play second fiddle and watch you take sides with her daughter who's walking all over her.
Oh, and that is something that is, I can absolutely say with certainty. Because my wife and I are still married and still raising our daughters, she will not ever take their side over mine, and I won't take theirs over hers. If we were separated, I firmly believe we would both take our kids' side over the girlfriend, boyfriend.
Oh, yeah. Totally. Poison the well, send the kids over to dad, or vice versa.
Yeah. So women, hang with us here, okay? Because I've got something that I really want you to hear at the end of this. I promise it's important. You really want to know this. And I think Nate will have a lot to say about this as well. But so let's dive a little bit more into the single mother. I know as a single man, there will come a time, who knows what that age is for you, that maybe you have divorced before or left another girl before, and you've stayed single for some period of time. Some it will be sooner, some it will be longer. But there will come a point in time in every man's life where he would like to have a long-term relationship, because it's just who we were made to be with somebody.
We're better together.
We're better together. So what is the gap here? Where do you start looking? Where is the problems? What's your experience there?
Well, so you said earlier, searching and looking, and I don't know that I am, or that I ever have. Now, maybe keeping an eye out for would be more accurate. But when you begin searching, you're trying to force a situation to be what you want it to be rather than what it is. And so that's, again, why in my own life, and I try and encourage young men to do the same, to find their purpose, find their passion. Passion, that's not the right word. Find their purpose and work towards it. Every single day, add a layer to your brain. Hit the gym, not for the beach body, but because we need you to grow old and wise and live long enough to be old. And also because, who cares what you can do with your pistol on the range on a sunny day? Lift heavy weights, get stronger, be a better fighter. That's really what it's all about. But I'm not really searching. And my approach to this is, because once you begin searching, eventually you're going to find yourself with an app on your phone, swiping, wasting your life, getting into that hypnotic rhythm, but for the negative. Build yourself. Build something of excellence, even if it's within you. And the cream will rise to the top. When you invest in yourself, financial education, physical fitness, not abusing your body with drugs and alcohol. I don't care if you do, don't abuse it, right? You attract good people to your life. In business, in podcast, in this culture, when you build something good, other accomplished people are attracted to you, right? You find each other. And so as a man, when you build yourself, the women that you value find you. And a woman that wants you will let you know that she wants you. And if there's 5 of them, now you get to pick. Versus you got nothing going for you because you don't have the discipline to work on yourself and improve yourself. And now all of a sudden you're out chasing something and you're invisible to them.
All right. Tell me now, we know there are some trip falls with single mothers, some issues that you're going to face. What in your experience has been some of those issues? We know possibility of children's one of them. Possibility of spouses is one of them. What are some other issues that you seem like you are having to fight against in order to continue the way into a long-term, into her heart, for easy words?
Whose heart?
To the single mom you're dating, right?
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you what, the sex is usually amazing. So amazing at the beginning. More so than a non-mom. But that's the hook. Also, you risk a pregnancy because let's face it, she's had one. And if you knock her up, I don't care what you think about abortion, the legality of it, the right or wrong of it, she's probably not going to have one. So now you are attached to her at least through the legal system. But most men were inclined to be like, okay, well, I should probably be with her. And now you're in that situation where you're going to have to deal with a child who is not biologically yours, and it is infinitely more difficult. And I get it. We're going to get a lot of flack from this, but I think if you asked any single mom who has a son and you lined up two women, same age, same, identical twins, maybe all the same qualifications for your son to marry, and you'd be like, which one do you think would be easier on your baby boy? If they're honest with you, it's the one without the child. And that child is not your responsibility. It is not, I don't even want to say your fault, but you did not create that situation. And because you didn't create that situation, you cannot fix it. A lot of guys with guns mean well. Maybe a little bit of white knight going on. Fantasies of, my gunfight at high noon with the perfect weather conditions, and I'm going to have the drop, and then there's going to be a parade for me. When in reality, if you take a force-on-force class of any reputation, you're going to find out that's not the case at all. And sometimes we go into other areas of life with that same mentality. We mean well, but you're being real nice. And eventually, the outcome happens. And again, if that's what you want to do, let's say biologically, all right, let's do the extreme bell curve. You biologically can't have kids. Okay. She's got whatever you want and 3 kids in tow, or 1. Okay. But don't do it ignorantly. Understand. Because the most dangerous thing, I think, to a man is the lack of understanding of his own value in a man-woman relationship. You could argue that they will do anything and everything to keep you ignorant of it as well. But in the end, if you put in the effort, you are the prize.
All right, let's talk about the values that a man brings to the table. Like if you guys haven't listened to the last podcast, you need to listen to it before this one. I have a friend who was married 16 years, trampled on by his wife, has went through a lot in this last year of being divorced, isn't really seeking anything right now, like literally is lost in life, went through the drinking, kind of still is in the drinking.
I get it.
What value does a man bring to a woman? And so let's talk about those values at a high value. So let's say the value is, I don't know, you tell me that it needs to be a $55,000 or $60,000 a year job. If it needs to be a $60,000 a year job and you've got a 30, maybe you should start working on the 60. So what are those values that a man brings that makes it where his values are greater than making the woman's, like you made the woman the adventure? What are those values?
Well, so the market determines the value, right? You see a lot of people on the internet talking about how they're a high value this or that, man or woman. It's just like baseball cards. You know, my dad taught me, he was like, he'd be like, oh, Dad, I got this Sergei Fedorov card. It's worth $6. He was like, oh, who gave you $6 for it? I'd be like, no, I paid $6 for it. He was like, it's not worth anything until someone gives you money for it. So the market determines the value of anything. But as a man, first of all, you got to learn to value yourself. Respect yourself and your own time and your energy because it's finite. That's hard to do when, okay, so this is going to get a little weird, but your self-talk, right? Us men, we're typically our own worst critics. And at some point in time, I like to quote another mentor of mine, you know, he says, I'm already over it. You know, you miss a shot, you screw up in life, I'm already over it. Move on. Think about it for 10 seconds, get the lesson out of the failure, and then use that as the seed to plant your success. The hand-wringing and the self-deprecation that goes on forever is nothing but wasting your life away. Ask me how I know. But discipline is a big part of it, right? And this is something that, you know, you and I, every day we work on. So you can't just come right out of the gate. Pick something. You know, Jordan Peterson says, make your bed. Start somewhere. Go to the gym once a week. Learn to manage your finances, right? If you said if you make 30, maybe you need to start working towards making 60. That's not a bad idea. But if you don't know how to manage 30, when you get to 60, you're going to just be dealing with the same stresses at a higher RPM. Right? Because it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep and for how many generations. So begin to do those things. I said, never move in with a woman. So many men, they're codependent relationships. Oh, my rent will be cheaper if I move in with this girl. Are you kidding? Like, what kind of math are you? Ask any married man how that works. Oh man, I make $60,000 a year. If I move in with my wife who makes 30, that'll be like an extra $20,000 in my pocket.
Yeah, no, it's not.
That's not how that works.
That's just not how it works.
So learn how to stand on your own 2 feet, because life is going to kick you and knock you down. And then when you're down, it's going to continue to kick you. And if you don't know what I'm not going down that road. Learn to stand on your own 2 feet. Be the person that can provide. Get on another toxic masculinity. I've had this conversation before. There's no such thing. I've learned from better men than myself that masculinity is about providing, protecting, and procreating. Anything outside of that is not masculine. It might be predatory, but it's not toxic masculinity. Because again, masculinity provides, protects, and procreates.
I've actually never heard that before, but if you really break that down, it makes a lot of sense. I provide for you, I provide for my family, I protect you, and I procreate. I guess at some point in time you don't procreate anymore, but
you provide and protect for those that you procreated.
That's right. I never stop. providing and protecting, right? And to break it down and say this is masculinity and anything out of it isn't. What a profound statement. What a thing that you can literally spend a lot of time when you're driving to work. Turn off all the noise and just think about that. And then start brainstorming a plan in your life to say, providing, protecting, maybe not worry about procreating right now at this point in time in your life, but providing and protect. What does it take for me to be a provider? And what does it take for me to be a protector? Provider first. That's huge.
And if you haven't learned how to stand on your own 2 feet because you were trying to split the rent, you haven't learned how to provide for yourself, right? Men, we're hung from the gallows of responsibility. Stop trying to shirk it. Stop trying to diffuse it or share it with the woman in your life. Own it. It's yours. I like a smart woman, but I don't defer to her and I don't go to her and ask for her advice because she doesn't want that leadership. Now, I like a smart one with experience, and you're not going to have to ask her for her opinion. She will tell you, and I will listen to it, but then I have to make the decision. Because if you take her advice and it goes great, she's going to take she's going to take the credit, and that's fine. But if it goes wrong, it's still your responsibility.
Sure, you're the head of the house. It's your responsibility. I will say, though, on big decisions, rather than make the decision off my cuff, I will talk to my wife about it. And a lot of times she will see a different perspective than I do.
And that's very important.
Yeah, but I make that decision. I do. I mean, 100%. I'm not BSing anybody here. I make that decision. She won't make the decision, right? She will literally freeze up, not because she's not smart. She's very smart. But I believe she provides a great perspective. So you're not saying that their perspective isn't important. You're saying that allowing them to make the decision without your decision is a mistake.
Unfairly putting the burden of responsibility on her by seeking her counsel or her advice is
and that seems to be the culture of today, that men are now trying. It's like we see it in the media and we see it on TV, that the woman should make all the decisions because the man is now stupid. And so we give her these decisions, and the truth is they really don't want to make that decision. They're happy to tell you what they think. They don't want to make that final decision. If you make them make the final decision enough, there'll always be contention. Now, I told you at the first of the podcast that the women that I've seen that have found themselves single with children, they're kind of in a spot where, from my point of view, knowing that I have daughters, knowing that they're friends that we care about, family members that I care about, I watch guys move in and move out, move in and move out, and move in and move out. I've heard people say these are guys that, they're just playing the field. And I've seen women get very discouraged, wondering why these men just come in their life and they only want to have sex and then they leave. I do see that there is an issue of that 8 to 18-year-old child, that a single man that has kids or doesn't have kids probably doesn't want that drama, especially younger kids. Like, I try to picture myself single. If I suddenly was not with my wife anymore, which I can't even foresee that, but if I was, I would not want anyone younger than my daughters. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't want her to have any kids at all unless that kid was a baby. And the reason why is because I'm at the point in time where I'm about to have free time, right? My kids are, my youngest is 14 and a half, almost 15. I'm about at the time where I'm about to have free time. I do not want to do the whole basketball games again, baseball games again. And I think that there could be some of that with some of these guys, but the truth is I'm not experienced to know. And I'd like to see your opinion on, why these women believe they're great women and their guys are moving in and out and nobody's sticking.
Well, yeah, you got all these men that just want to have sex because they can. You're 29, you're 32, you're a single mom. Remember when you were 18 and you could have sex with anybody? Who did you have sex with? The 16 and 17-year-olds or the college guys? The tables are reversed. It's just the way it is. And so the value that you had to men who are like, woo, young and hot, is now been flipped. Those awkward, nerdy, broke high school and college guys that managed their money, stayed in the gym, didn't smoke and abuse drugs and alcohol, are now in their mid-30s with their own place, not drowning in debt, and they got their pick. It sucks, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, and I see most of these guys don't really want to strap on any. They're there for the I'm not necessarily. They're looking, right? They're searching, kind of like you said. You're not actively
Searching,
trying.
I'm keeping my eye out.
You're keeping your eye out, and so they're keeping their eye out, right? But in turn, they're playing, and there are some things that women have to overcome there. And then I would say, I know you're going to be mad at me when I say this, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but the truth is, women, we've said that men need to go and work on themselves for their talents. Women need to go and look at themselves, find their weaknesses, and turn and make it better for a man. Because again, I believe that a woman's role is supporting her husband, supporting her significant other. It's not leading him. And especially if you're a woman who, quote unquote, wears the pants, you're going to have a harder time with the guy because he already went through that and he's done. He's not going to do that again.
Yeah. If you buy into the, I don't cook, I don't clean, let me show you how I got that ring. If that is anywhere embedded into your psyche, there's going to be a lot of cats in your future, and only cats. Man, I can't fix other people's problems. I've heard some people say that the best thing you can do is to not have a bunch of men running in and out of your house when you got kids. And maybe that sucks to be alone for 18 years or whatever. But the biggest form of abuse for your girls is a non-family member in the home. And I got to believe some of that goes on with the boys too. Right?
Oh, no, I totally agree.
Protect your kids. Your dating app says my kids always come first. So put them first in front of yourselves.
And that just may be a reality of divorce, right? It may be a reality for a widow, and that sucks. It's not fun. A lot of the guys I talk to, they were willing in that little child's age of, infant to 3, 4, 5, when they could connect to you and you could raise them. Teenagers become very difficult. You may just have to wait until you get out of that teenage state and maybe not be so depressed or hard on yourself and realize where it is. And in the meantime, you're working on things that are important to you.
Right. And we don't have enough time, I think, to go into the rest of this. But I think today in 2021, marriage is already an unconscionable contract. Meaning if you took a similar contract and overlaid that, you and I, into some sort of business venture, if I read and understood the contract, it would be insane for me to sign it and go into that. I've done business with people, and yeah, I've done business with guys and gotten burned and had things fall apart. And as a man, I begin to vet future business partnerships, prospects, things more wisely. There seems to be a lack in doing that going into a second marriage or third marriage. And so being that it's already unconscionable, I think in my experience with single moms, it's more unconscionable because the risks are that much higher. And we didn't have time to go into it all. And I don't want to, because I don't want to come across as uncaring. And you can't explain it in the, 50 minutes we've been talking. But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
All right, guys. So I hope this helps. I hope it gives you some perspective, gives you something to think about. If you want to hear another podcast, let us know, and we'll put another one together. But for now, we appreciate you very much. Check out Aeolus Defense, spelled AEOLUS defense.com, for all of your tactical body armor belts that you need. And check out YouTube and all social media forums for The Last American Outlaw. We appreciate you listening. Stay tuned.